Hello everyone, welcome you all. My name is Pawan. In this video, I'm going to explain about TestNG annotations. So let's start with what are the annotations in TestNG. So we can control the sequence and priority of the methods which allows to execute Java code before and after a certain point. So annotations are placed over the method with the symbol @. So basically annotations are used to control the execution of your test methods. So there are different type of annotations we have in TestNG, like before suit and after suit, before test and after test, before class and after class, before method and after method, finally a test annotation. So these are the main important types of annotations we have in TestNG. So in the last session, I've discussed about @test annotation because every test method we have to specify with @test annotation, and then TestNG will recognize that method as a test method. And now in the today's session, we'll discuss about the rest of annotations, so where we can use these annotations. So let's start with the practical part. So let's go to IntelliJ IDE. So here I'm creating two different test cases. So let's go to SRC. And first I will create a new package, and inside it I'll create multiple test cases. So let's start with one test case, and I'm creating new Java class, and here I will name it as, let's say, TC1. Okay. Now inside the TC1, I will create a few test methods, TestNG test methods. Let's say void. So let's say a void test1. So this is test method 1. And inside this, I write a simple statement, system.out.println. This is test1, right? And similarly, I will define this as @test annotation, because TestNG will recognize this method as a test annotation or test method. So whenever you use the test annotation, we have to import the package from org testng.annotations. Now this package is imported, and similarly I will also create one more test method. Let's say void test2. Now inside this also I'll create a small message. Let's say system.out.println, and this is test2. All right. So I will define this also with the test annotation, right? So now this particular test case contains two test methods. So when I execute this test case, run TC1, so we can see the output of these two test methods. Now TestNG will run these two test methods. So let's wait for a few seconds. Now we can see here both the test methods are passed. So this is test1 and this is test2. So now my requirement here is I have a prerequisite script. So I want to run that, or I need to have run some setup script before every test method. So before executing test1, I want to run some setup script, and also before executing test2 also I want to run some setup script. So how we can do that? So that setup script should be executed before every actual test method. So I will create one more method. Let's say void. All right, so here I will name it as before method. So some name, any name is fine. So I want to execute this particular method before every actual test method, right? So here I will write some message. So here I'll write system.out.println, and this will execute before every test method. I'm writing some message here. But how we can make this method execute before every test method? So to do this, we need to add one more annotation, that is before method from org testng annotations. So when I add this particular annotation to this method will execute multiple times before every test method executes. Similarly, if I create one more method, suppose after a completion of these two methods, I want to execute another method. Let's say closing method, for example. So normally the before methods and after method, we will write a setup script and closing scripts. So before method will execute before every test method. Now similarly, I will create one more method. Let's say I want to execute this method after completion of each and every method, every test method. Let's say void, I will name it as after method. I can just name it as any name here. So name can be anything. So I'm just giving the relevant name. So here I want to execute this particular method after every test method, after test 1 and after test 2. So this particular method I need to define with at the rate after method annotation, after method. So now what happens? Before method will execute before every test method starts, and after method will execute after completion of every test method, right? So let's execute and see now. Run tc1. Now it started execution. All right, so now it is executed. Now you can see the output. So test 1, test 2 are passed. Now you can see the output here. So this will execute before every test method. This will execute after every method. So in between these two statements, we have seen this test 1. That means before executing test 1, before method is executed. After completion of the test 1, after method is executed. This is one combination. Again, before test 2 started, before method is executed. After test 2 is completed, after method is executed. So what as we understood here is before method will execute multiple times before every test method. After method will execute multiple times after completion of every method, right? So this is a functioning of before method, after method. Now I have another requirement. So for example, let me clear this. So for example, I want to execute a script before starting all these methods, including before method and after method. That means I want to execute a script before starting this particular class, and also I want to execute another script after completion of this entire class, right? So that means before class and after class. So before executing all these test methods within the class, I want to execute one script, and after completion of all the tests uh, before exiting the class, I want to execute another script. So then I can specify those methods as before class and after class. Let me define those also. So here I will define another one. So before class and after class. Let me create a method. So let's say void. So I can just okay, so void before class, void before class, and inside this I'll write a message called system.out.println. So I want to execute this particular method before the class starts. That means before all the test methods have started. So I can specify this method as @before class, right? So similarly, I want to execute another method after completion of entire class. Then I can write one more method. Let's say void after class, and inside this I'll write a simple message. This is your after class. Now I need to define this method @after class. So now this before class method will execute only one time before starting the class, and after class method will execute only one time after completion of the class, right? So let's execute this. So again, run tc1. All right, so now you can see, so this will execute before the class started here and after the class is end here. So this is after class method output, and before class executed here. And between these two, all the other methods have executed. So here, these two. So method, every before method, after method will execute multiple times anyway for every test method. But before class is started once here and after class is completed here. All right, so this is a behavior of before class and after class. So far we have seen before method and after method, before class and after class. Now I'll show you another annotation, before test and after test. So I have seen before method and after method, before class and after class. Now I'll show you before test and after test. So if you want to see this before test and after test, we can also use them in single test case, but if we have two test cases, then we can see the functionality very clearly. So what I can do is I can just create one more test case and I will run those test cases through XML file. Then we can see when we have to use before test, after test, and before suit and after suit. So what I can do is along with this test case, I will also create one more test case. So here TC1 is created. Similarly, I will also create another test case. Java class, I'll say TC2. Okay. Now inside the TC2, I will create a few more test methods. The first one is, let's say, void test3. Sorry. Right. So void test3. 1, 2 I already given in the test case 1. So I'm just say test3. And inside this, I'll write a simple message, or else I can just copy the same. Just a moment. Let me copy the same test case, guys. Okay, because I'll just change few things, but I'll copy the test case. I'm just removing this. Okay, so I'm copying the same thing. This is test case 2. Right, so test case 2, before class and after class, I'll put the same methods, before method and after method, also keep it like this. And now here test case 3 and test case 4 I'm saying. So this is your test case 2. This is 3 and this is your 4, right? So now another 2 test methods I have created under test case 2. So TC1 is having 2 test methods, actual test method, test1 and test2. And TC2 is having test3 and test4 along with the other methods, before method, after method, before class and after class. So these methods are related to this particular class. Okay, so let's execute test case 2 alone. Run TC2. So once we have run the TC2, now it will execute TC2. Now we can see here test case 3, 4 is executed, but before executing test case 3, before method, after method is executed. And before class and after class executed after, before and after completion of every test methods. So the functionality is fine. So now I'm going to show you how to use before test and after test. That's another combination. So before test and after test. So currently we have 2 test cases. That means 2 test classes we have. So then I'm going to use before test and after test. So to do this, what I will do is I will just create one XML file to run these 2 test cases, right? So I'm selecting these 2, TC1 and TC2, right click here, convert to Java file. So here you can see create TestNG XML, right? So create TestNG XML file and it will be created in this particular location. Okay. So once it is created XML file, so we can see the XML file in our project directory somewhere. Is it created? Let's refresh your project. Right, so now you can see testng.xml. So open this testng.xml, just reformat, go to your code menu and reformat. Now you can see the code here. Right, so now this particular XML file is created, right? So now it is created 2 tests. So I'll just modify this one. So I'm just removing all this stuff. So in the suite, we should have a test tag. In the test, we have a classes tag. In the class, we have a test method. So that is the hierarchy. So here the hierarchy in TestNG is, first one is a suite one. So suite contains a multiple tests, and every test contains a multiple classes, and every class contains a class. A class contains a method. So this is a hierarchy we have to follow. So suite contains a test tag, test contains the classes, classes contains the class, class contains a method. So let's create the TestNG suite here. So suite tag is already created. Now I'll create test tag. So whenever you create a test tag, we have to give some name to this. I'll say some name is equal to annotations demo and close here. And now inside the test tag, we have to start the classes tag. Now inside the classes tag, we can specify the class tag. So class name also we should specify. Name is equal to TC1 and TC2 I'm going to execute. So they are comes from the default package. So I'll say TC1 is my first class. And again, if you mention method names, right? So you can also specify the method names or else not required. So this is the first class. Suppose if you want to add methods also, you can also add methods inside the class. Suppose if you want to add methods, I can specify one more tag called methods. right? Inside the methods, you need to write all the test methods which I have created. So in the methods, let's say in the TC1, I have two test methods. One is test1 and test2. So I will include this. So include name is equal to test1. So this is one, and there is one more test method is available in the TC1, that is test2, right? So this is a hierarchy. So I'm just again reformatting the code. All right, so this is one test case. So here test tag contains classes, contains a class, and here it is end, here it is class end, and here it is test end and test suite. So this is a final suite which contains one test. One test means which contains again classes, and you can define only one class here. I can also define one more class because we have a TC2 also, right? So I will define one more class here. So class name, I'll say TC2. So TC2, and here TC3 we have and 4 we have. So under TC2 we have a test3 and a test4. So this is a overall TestNG XML to run TC1 and TC2, right? So when I execute this one, first TC1 will execute and then TC2 will execute. All the methods will execute: test1, test2, test3, test4. Along with this, the other method like before test, before method, after method, before class and after class also will be executed. So let's execute now. So once you executed this TestNG file, now you can see the same output here. So TC1, test1, test2 is executed. From TC2, test3, test4 is executed, and this is the final demo. So if you see this particular one, so this is execute before class. Okay, till here the TC1. So let me show here. So till here, this is a test case one. So or else we can do individually. So TC1 selected. So this is an output which we got it from TC1, test case one. So first before class is executed, after class is executed, before method, after method, before method, after method. For every test method, before method, after method is executed. Now if you see this TC2 output again, before class and after class executed, before class and after class, and then before method, after method, and before method and after method executed before and after every test method, right? So if you see overall the test case, I want to, if you see the complete test case here, so to suite, TestNG suite. Now we can see all the tests have been executed from both the test cases, TC1 and TC2, right? Now my requirement is, I have considered all these test cases. So the first class and second class has one test. So I want to execute a method or a code before actual test is started. So I want to start before I want to execute a test. I want to execute a script before actual test is started. That means I want to execute a method which will start before all these steps. That means that before the class itself, I want to execute a certain method. Before the class means we have a test. So this is the hierarchy, right? So before the class, before the class, above this we have a before test. So before test, after test will be executed multiple times before and after every class. So you can see here, this is our TestNG XML file. So before test started, I want to execute a method, and after completion of the test, I want to execute another method. So here I need to use before test and after test annotation method. So where we have to create that method. So those methods can be created either in TC1 or in TC2. We can create anywhere in these two test cases. So let's go for TC1. So here I am creating those two methods. So before test and after test. So here I will create one more method. Let's say void, and I will name it as again before test. And here I'll write a message system.out.println. This will execute before test. So I want to put this as @ before test annotation. So before test annotation. So you can create this method either in TC1 and TC2, but at the runtime, this will execute before all the methods have executed. So before test. And also I will define after test. So I can also define after test method. So after test system.out.println, this will execute after the test. Right, so now I have defined these two test methods in the TC1, right? So let's execute TestNG XML file now. So when I run this XML file one more time, now it is started. Now you can see here. So this is execute before test. So that means this method is executed before class itself, right? So again, here it is executed. This is execute after the test. So after completion of the class, after the class, then after the test is executed. So that means this particular methods, right? So TC1 we have created before test method will execute before starting the test. And similarly, after method will execute after completion of the test. All right. So that is a behavior of before test and after test. Suppose I want to execute a certain script before this test and after this test. So for example, suit level. So we have seen methods at the method level, that is before method, after method. We have seen the suits for class level, that is before class and after class. And also we have seen the test level, that is before test and after test. But now I'm talking about the suit level. So I want to execute a script before starting the suit, and then I want to execute another script after completion of the suit. That can be achieved by using before suit and after suit. Now, where we have to create those methods? Again, those methods can be created either TC1 and TC2. So this time I will create in TC2. So in the TC2 test case 2, I will create before suit and after suit. Let me create here. So void before. So void before suit, and inside this I'll create a message. So it will execute before the test suit, and I'll make this as @before suit, right? So now this method will execute before suit, and similarly I will create another suit. I have another method that is after suit, and this will execute after the test suit. So these two methods will, the before suit method will execute before actual test is started. Similarly, after suit will execute after completion of test. So this is very high level. Now execute your XML file. So run XML file, you have to run, not the test case. So go to XML file and run your XML file. Now started. All right, so now it is executed. Now you can see the output. So before class is started, test executed. Before test is started, suit is executed. So suit is the first one before the test suit. And when the suit will end here. So after the test suit, execute after the test suit. So we have a multiple annotations here: method level, class level, test level, and suit level. So these are the 4 levels we have, guys. So whenever you create a test method, before method and after method will execute multiple times, before and after every test method. These are all method level annotations. And class level annotations, we have a before class and after class. So before class method will execute before the class one time. After class method also will execute only one time after completion of the class. And before test and after test is the test level annotations, and before test method will execute before actual test started, and after test will execute after completion of the entire test. Similarly, suit level, we have a before suit and after suit. Before suit method will execute before starting the suit. Again, suit contains multiple tests. And after suit method will execute after completion of the test suit. So these are all different types of exceptions we have in TestNG. So basically these annotations are used to control your test execution. All right, so that's all for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.